Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday, January 16th. This is your Cup of Jones. Left the speakers on the PC. There's always one thing. Hey, everybody. It's Game of the Year day. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. Let me flip this by the camera, too. There we go. So I can see if the camera turns off or not. It's Cup of Jones. Good. Severon's here, everybody. We're fine. Made it in the nick of time. I actually want to start talking about that. Well, we'll talk about Game of the Year in just a second. I just want to thank everybody in general for participating in Cup of Jones. Like, not only do people leave... There are people that leave comments every now and then. There are people that leave comments, you know, a lot. There's Sophie, who's under the table. We're getting our dishwasher fixed right now. And Sophie is not happy with the dishwasher person, so she's hanging out in the garage for this Cup of Jones. But I realized, because there's a lot of moving parts to doing Cup of Jones live now, and so when I set up those moving parts this morning, and I was posting this on Patreon, and then I click on the post on Patreon here so I can get the YouTube link on my laptop so I can bring up chat, and then I realized everybody's doing the same thing that I'm doing right now, only they're just waiting for me to start doing it. And so people that jump into chat right away, people that participate on YouTube, that participate with the show on Patreon, are aware that it happens. And granted, I do it at the same time every week, but I just want to thank everybody for hanging out and for being a part of Cup of Jones. And I really appreciate when I see a name that I have never seen before in Cup of Jones, when I see somebody that has been listening for a long time but wants to weigh in on something. And it's always funny. We have somebody specifically talk about that in a comment today, where they're like, I can't believe this is the first comment, but it's something very important to me that I need clarification on. But yeah, Game of the Year. I very much wish today, I'm going to try to reach out to him this afternoon. We have a venue that we picked out for our anniversary on March. We're aiming for Sunday, March 18th, but wait for a final confirmation on the date there. And we're just waiting to hear back from them. And it reminds me of where we were last year. It's just like, you get involved with the venue and you reach out to them, and you have to wait for them to get back to you. And it was a 3-day weekend, so like maybe they were out of town, but haven't heard from them since last week. So just waiting for that final piece to go into place, and then I'll have an announcement for that. Was hoping to have it today, but today is Game of the Year, and so we can talk about that just for, you know, a bit. We have questions about Game of the Year, and obviously I finally finished a promo that we put up that you can watch that teases at some of the categories that we thought of for this year. But it's been interesting doing Game of the Year at Easy Allies, because not only did I feel you know, a heaviness as far as carrying on the legacy of doing Game of the Year at Game Trailers, which we didn't start doing. I think we did trailer awards before we did actual game awards. I think it was Shane Satterfield who came in and started doing that. And so we actually have a question coming up. I was never very much involved in a lot of the Game of the Year deliberations, because I didn't play a lot of games back in the heyday of Game Trailers. I was really producing the retros and features and stuff like that. And I stopped reviewing games for several years until GTA 5, I think, was the first game that I came back for. I went from Superman Returns on the Xbox 360 to Grand Theft Auto 5. So I kind of like missed that whole gen. As far as reviews were concerned, but now that we can doing it so yeah, not only I felt the need to continue that legacy of Game Trailers, but at Game Trailers I wanted to do Game of the Year very traditionally, and so it made sense to have platform awards, it made sense to have genre awards, and now not so much. Like, if we don't really want to weigh in on a genre, like VR is a great example. We're not giving an award for best VR. I've probably played more VR than most, if not all of the allies, but I still don't feel, I've just kind of scratched the surface. I still don't spend nearly enough time playing all of that, and I would like to have at least one other person that I could bounce some ideas off of. So when we have a genre like fighting game or strategy game, which we are doing, we have people like Kyle and Ben, and, you know, even like myself and Bloodborne. Like, I played a lot of Injustice, I played a lot of Tekken, and so I feel like I can definitely weigh in on that decision. So we don't feel beholden, like, to do things a certain way. And so it's been fun not only to have all of the categories be jokey, like there were definitely some jokey category ideas that we had that we didn't want to do, but to have some in there, just to not only represent, you know, to be fun and be lighter than when we need to tackle the serious stuff, but also to express kind of where we're coming from and some of the conversations that we've had and some of the things that we notice. We're doing the best thing we got in a loot box, which sounds funny, but we got lots of like I have one. I definitely have one that happened live on Twitch that I can clip out. That was a very memorable moment. Definitely not one of the highlights of 2017, but it's something that we all have an opinion about, and so it's fun to have Game of the Year evolve. And so very grateful to our viewers on Twitch who put up with the Game of the Year that we did last year, and we'll watch whatever the heck this turns out to be, us deliberating live. But what's up, Danny? Thanks for joining us. To do it in a way that we feel is truthful to us, and to also have fun with it, and to be given that opportunity because of our viewers and of course because of our patrons. So thank you very much for giving us that opportunity. We are aiming to have this Game of the Year be a little more produced. Last year was kind of run and gun, and we're putting a little bit more effort into it this year because we've taken a little bit more time. So always looking for feedback, always looking to evolve it, and so I'm sure you'll have notes, but I'm sure you will also enjoy it. And because it is live, I have no idea what the heck it's going to be like. I just know that the thing about Game of the Year that's tough is it's not so much the arguing, it's not so much like trying to make your point heard or somebody saying something, that's really offensive. Like, I can get over that stuff, sticks and stones, but it's the loss. It's like, there's going to be some category that you feel really passionate about something, and you're going to have to take a loss. People already had to take losses because we decided to narrow down our list of nominees to 10. We were thinking maybe that's 8, maybe that's 6, maybe that's 15, maybe we just list a bunch of games we like and then stop there. And I always like having a hard number because when it's a number that we clearly ended on, when it's not something like 11, then you can tell that there were concessions, there was a debate, there was a discussion about what experiences we valued this year over other experiences, and some people were already upset about stuff that they wanted to be in that 10 that didn't get in. And so when you haven't even had the debates live and there's already been like sadness, and so when you add up that sadness, when you have like 1 or 2 losses, or especially when not only you're trying to make your point about what you think should be Game of the Year, but are accepting that you might possibly lose Game of the Year, it's hard to remain rational. It's hard to put your best foot forward. It's hard to be clear and concise and effective in your speaking when you're upset and when you're sad, and it just adds up. And so I think the more I think about Game of the Year, I think about that sadness, and I think that's why some of those debates can get pretty brutal. So hopefully we can help lift each other up and not make each other feel so sad. And once we get victories, understand that they are done in the good-natured interest of creating fun entertainment and a lively discussion about trying to figure out what the heck Game of the Year is. It's gonna be a wild night. So we hope you enjoyed that. 5 p.m. Pacific. It'll be in 7 hours from now. We will be talking Game of the Year. Feedback. Professor Metal Gear, what was the first PC game you ever played or enjoyed playing? It would probably maybe the one I enjoyed playing, because I might have played something else that I don't remember. But if the farthest back that I can go is on the Apple IIe, the Hobbit adventure game. For the Apple II, I had no idea what I was doing. There were a bunch of other games that I played also on that system, but I remember at least having like a cursory understanding of how to operate them. Maybe they were simpler games, but like the Hobbit I remember so early in life because I was so confused. I think my dad was playing it and my brother's playing it and I was just watching, and like I think I played it on my own because I was smart enough to like turn on the computer and boot up the software, but I had no idea what to do. Goaty starts right now. Prototype J, I want to ask about the situation behind Marcus Beer and Phil Fish. Curveball. Annoyed Gamer was mine and my best friend's show, and we loved back at GT, but we've been curious about what happened behind the scenes when this happened and when Phil Fish canceled Fez 2. Did this end up playing a role in Marcus leaving? I hope to see Marcus return, even if it's for a cameo in something Easy Allies produces. Thanks for all your hard work you guys do. I listen to every piece of content you guys make. Amazing. While I'm at work, driving across the country, lots of love and infinite respect. I can't speak to why Marcus left. I know Marcus was off and on working with GT. Marcus has been off and on working with Sifted and working with other people. Marcus just kind of floats around, and that's kind of been my experience professionally with Marcus, that I don't think there's anything, there may be like a couple of projects we worked on together, game trailers, but we were never directly working on something together. We were just working next to each other, and so I always had a very jolly time with Marcus. Never met Phil Fish, I didn't play Fez, I don't think. I felt absorbed in Fez. So many people around me played Fez, and when you're like me, where you like read so many scripts with previews and reviews, and you know, you're watching the footage, you're editing videos. I feel like I played Fez, but I never did, and so I have little to no context about. I know Phil can be kind of Phil can be a pill sometimes. I know Phil is very outspoken, has lots of loud opinions about games sometimes. And I remember seeing the documentary way back in the day, and his personality definitely stuck out. The Video Games, the movie, or no, not Video Games, the movie. Some movie that Super Meat Boy was also in it. It was some documentary about independent games, indie games, the movie maybe, yeah, so I mean, I kind of just want to talk about Marcus because I have no idea. I don't have any frame of reference on there. I know they went at each other, but whenever you see people having, you know, bad opinions about somebody else in the industry, it's like I have little to nothing to say about that because I want that to be over. And I think talking about that, I want everybody to kiss and make up. So I don't know what one said to the other, but yeah, Marcus definitely trades in super hot opinions. I think it was really interesting seeing his take. From my perspective, being so different than that, you know, I rant every now and then, but I like to have a rant like a fine wine. I like to bottle that stuff up until the carbonation just pops out, and I gotta scream at the wall. But I try to only manage like maybe like 6 to 8 of those per year, so they're nice and tasty when they happen. But I think there is something to be said. I think there are people that, you know, kind of gravitate towards. And when you're somebody like Marcus, the thing that was fascinating about him is how many different things he's done. You know, he's had his hand in game development, he's had his hand in sales and marketing and hosting and video producing and writing, and the guy's just been a lot of places. And so, you know, it might seem sometimes he's got this like tired, angry opinion, but it comes from a fatigue of having to do so many things in his career and having so much experience, that somebody says anything like, "Hey, were you surprised that this thing happened?" And he's like, "No, I'm not surprised." I'm not going to try to do a Marcus Beer impression. One last thing about Marcus Beer that I love. Marcus is Welsh. I don't know if all of his lineage comes from Wales, but he is partly Welsh, and I am half Norwegian, half Welsh, and so Wales doesn't come up often, I'll be honest. And it's not, you know, it's not like Germany or, you know, there's a lot of like countries that just like, oh, you have that background. Like a lot of people I know, you know, also share that background. Don't meet many Welsh people that often. And so I remember him giving me kind of a strange look when I was like, "I'm Welsh." He was like, "No, you're not." I'm like, I am 50-50, mostly Welsh. Yeah, Marcus, I like Marcus. Brandon Kagan, in the Batman universe, which 2 villains would you love to see go head to head? And who do you think would win? Brandon coming in with the Batman question. Thanks for indulging me this time, and as always, have a great day. Thanks, Brandon. Brandon usually asks very pointed, easy A-related questions, so it's nice to, as I mentioned in the Patreon description, we have a Batman and a Disney question. I think 2 people chimed in about Disney. 2 villains going head-to-head. I was thinking about Batman and Robin. All the Batman movies, the Burton and the Schumacher films are on Netflix right now. And so you'd think I'd go back to 89 or even Batman Returns, which I love dearly. Nope. Went straight to Batman and Robin. Watched Batman and Robin while I was cutting the podcast with the volume off, just had it on in the background, because I don't need to listen to that to know what's going on in Batman and Robin. There's a lot of fascinating things about Batman and Robin. Fascinating that the same Alfred made it through all 4 films, the same Gordon made it through all 4 films. It's interesting, even like the reporter, I think, is in Batman Returns. There's like a blonde reporter that is like, "Bruce," that keeps showing up. I'm like, I don't know who that was supposed to be from the comics, but if anybody. I love when people manipulate Mr. Freeze. I think Mr. Freeze is a fascinating villain. I think the Heart of Ice was his first episode. I think won and was nominated for and possibly won and the Emmy is the film stuff, right? Yeah. Or is that? Yeah. Everything has an N and the Y. Grammy, Emmy, Tony. But of all of the animated series episodes, like Dini just crafted that story so well, and it's hilarious to see Schwarzenegger like in the lab coat, like falling back into the ice goo. But it'd be fun to see somebody manipulate Freeze. You know what's frustrating about Batman and Robin is not seeing Mr. Freeze handled that way, and not seeing Poison Ivy handled that way. I think Uma Thurman actually would make an excellent Poison Ivy. It's just such a poorly written film. even for kind of what it tried to be. Batman and Robin is just a poorly written film. But it'd be great to see Bane was just... Bane is horrible in that movie. I think out of the three of them, I think Bane gets he doesn't talk, and like he's kind of short, and it's like sad. It'd be fun to see Bane and Freeze somehow get together. I would put Bane and Freeze together. But again, because it's Freeze, you know, I don't like Freeze. The weirdest thing about Freeze and Batman and Robin is he's just like so angry. You know, like Freeze is angry, but he holds it back. You know, like he's very reserved, and it was fun. Like you know, see this like really exuberant Mr. Freeze. What a weird film. But there you go, Freeze and Bane. Andrew left. Oh, and then I still haven't watched Batman and Batman Returns. I went from that to actually watch with the volume up Batman Forever. And Batman Forever is fascinating because it's like the 50-yard line between Batman Returns and Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin, they just completely were like, this is just dumb. This is like, we'll have that one scene where you're sad that Alfred might die, and like maybe there's like one serious scene with Chris O'Donnell, and like, that's about the rest of this is just complete hokey 1960s TV show. But Forever tries to actually get emotional. Like Forever it's an interesting mix of both, but still not great. Andrew left. What is a video game IP that hasn't been around for a while that you would love to see come back with a new game? SSX. Would you prefer this new game to be a sequel or reboot? Sequel. And bonus question, which developer would you like to see working on this game? EA Sports. You know, EA Sports big, made them back in the day. I don't know. Just somebody internal at EA. Let's say working on this game would not interrupt development of any game currently being made. Yep, there you go. It's a boring answer, and I want to say that as much as I can because SSX is one of those things that, like, I don't know how much creative value my opinion has as far as, like, actually getting projects, you know, done. It seems like Huber has some weird Mary Poppins magic where he can just be like, I want this game, and it happens. Ben Moore's also pretty good at that, too. I've never been great at that. So I don't know if me actually saying SSX over and over again, like, you know, Bloody Mary or Beetlejuice, if that'll, like, make SSX happen. Aurélien Grenier, have you noticed your solo streams that you are often saying French words? And there is Sophie, which is named, well, Sophie. She didn't even bring up her head when I said that. She's sleeping. What is your appreciation of the French language? An appreciation, certainly not a knowledge. I never learned... I tried to pick up a little bit of German when I went to Germany. I actually did a very poor job. Amanda knows much more German than I do. And I admittedly was way too lazy when we went to Germany for our honeymoon to learn German. So, yeah, my fault. I took Spanish in high school, so I never studied French. I don't know why I say so many French words. That's fascinating. Maybe list them if you can, or just let me know some phrases that I say. Sophie was named Sophie when we got her, so that was the breeder giving her a nice, cute French name. And I never really thought Sophie specifically was French. I love French cinema. The City of Lost Children and Amélie are two of my favorite films. I love France. I've been to Paris a couple times. I've been in and around France. I've been to Disneyland Paris. We talked about that a little bit. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, I want to say so many nice things about France that don't seem convoluted, that don't seem like something I could just have read on Wikipedia, but because obviously I'm probably completely butchering your first name. Obviously Grenier. Like, I want to say that. I think French is fascinating because I think if you are learning Spanish, it can be tough. I was told I had a good Spanish accent, but I'm terrified, like, to actually speak something in Spanish live or for shows that we do. But I was told by a couple Spanish teachers, they were like, oh, I like your Spanish accent. And I was always scared to, like, do that and have that offend somebody. Like, whenever I do, like, my cowboy voice or whenever I'll do, like, a British accent, it's like, I do it because I have, like, an affinity toward that, and voices are fun. It's much like, you know, doing, like, a Kermit voice or, like, a Yoda voice. It's fun, you know, to try to sound like other things and try to sound like something that you're not. But I think you can kind of get away with that with a lot of languages, phonetically, and still be understood. But, like, France is so pretty. Like, French is such an eloquent and beautiful language that it's like you can't just half-ass French. You can't just kind of, you know, you gotta swing for the fences with French. You gotta make that sound as poetic and gorgeous as it is. Matt, you talked about adding a Q&A to the site last week. There have also previously been website features like a bet tracker or profile page that have been brought up. These features are all just about the availability of information. Some of these things and similar are handled in the forums, but what if you set up a wiki on the site? Just like forums, there's a pre-built software that exists to accomplish this task. It seems like there have been a pretty good community here, and this would be a great way to take advantage of it to solve some easy problems. You could even take a few of the leading thread creators, like the dude who made the Hall of Greats compendium, from the forums to help initially moderate populate content. Most wiki software like MediaWiki or DokuWiki also have features to let only a set number of people edit a page, like what you'd want from a Q&A. Yes, and this is a budget question. Like, there's a lot of things, the lights was one of them. There's a lot of things that are just kind of hovering over us that are, you know, $1,500 to $3,000 purchases. That, you know, that's the kind of money that we can spend every now and then on stuff that we really want, but we can't spend $6,000, we can't spend $9,000. So these little pockets of expenses that would up the production value, that would make things easier for us to produce stuff, are always out there. And I honestly have not budgeted, so I can't say it's what specific price range it's in. But there is that big glob of website updates, and one of the things about the website is we wanted to get that up very quickly. We wanted that to be functional, and we wanted that to be easy, because not only do we have to pay for the server, and we got to pay for the upkeep of the website, but we have to pay the person that's building it. And it's a friend of mine, he's worth every penny, but adding more of this stuff to the site would be not as easy as the site was initially to set up. It was very, very simple, and we did it very quickly. And so we did that cost effectively, and we did that in the interest of having EasyAllies.com. We had the email addresses. It made sense. As a redirect, it made sense. The calendar, I think, is one of the best things on there. Obviously, the forums are an extension of that. So there were a lot of things that were important about the website, but then once we started adding things, even if those were a small thing, it was like, well, are we going to bother getting, Brent on the phone and getting this, an item, and actually paying for his time to do this, and just keep throwing stuff at him and keep, spending money on that month after month after month? Or do we want to kind of put these all in one, website update folder, and then save that for when we're possibly going to be, spending money on it? And I can tell you at the beginning of 2018, we're not going to be spending money on that. Website updates might be something that that'll happen later this year, but it's not something we're investing in right now. Because you got to make those tough choices. This is Cup of Jones, baby. It's not always going to be good news. We got to push some things down the road. Hey, we could right now we're at 42K. We have a lot of consistent support on Patreon. That could be 45K by the end of 2018, and there's our $3,000 to spend on something else exciting. Speaking of money, Rick Hogue, fantastic to hear your love. But that's the wiki and everything you said is amazing. It's great. It also speaks to a lot of more community involvement that I want to get into. Our meeting is Thursday this week, which I'm very excited about. A lot happening this week. Rick Hogue, fantastic to hear of your love for the Invisible Hours, which Rick recommended on the community showcase, and I totally forgot. I was like, at the time, I was like, oh yeah, the game sounds fascinating, and then totally forgot about it. That's 2017 for you. And in particular, your consideration of how the format may open the door to a whole new genre of storytelling in VR. On that point, have you ever considered doing a show or podcast focused, in particular, on the narrative structure of games? Yeah, the spoiler mode is kind of that right now, which he brings up later, but, The Depths. Was a show we had at GT. Some of my favorite bits of content that EZA produces are the critical deep dives into how a game conveys what it intends to convey. Would love to really dig into that, even with older games, where spoilers would not be as big of a concern. Yeah, there'd definitely be a giant spoiler warning on a show like that. Yeah, totally. I'm envious of Huber and Ian whenever they get together. Whenever they bring up reaction shots, they're like, hey, is Monday cool for shooting reaction shots? And I'm like, oh yeah. Who's on that? And they're like, oh, nobody, just us. You can be on it if you want. And like, I always want to. Like, they had their year in review, and like, I've watched a lot of fun movies near the end of this year. I would love to go on that, but I do not have the time. Like, it's just great to take a nap or just do something else while somebody else is shooting something to try to get caught up with all the stuff that I have to do. There's a lot of fun shows that we do, and yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to bring in writers. I know a lot of, I personally know a lot of people that write for television and write sketch comedy and write, I was going to say write improv. They write a lot of improv, but that work in improv and that work in theater, that I would love to talk about games and shows and movies. And I've noticed a lot of people, I'm always amused when people call a movie a show. They're like, have you seen that show? It's like, wait, what? The Get Out show? What do you mean the Get Out show? Ibrahim Sozer with a correction. Philosopher's Stone, not Sorcerer. Where you're from. There's two versions of that book. if it's in print, it exists. There's a book called there's a film called Sorcerer's Stone, yeah. So when I gave her that present, I read that book. I'm actually curious. I've never read that. The list of like the changes, like what's different, what words are different, or so it was fun going through some of those books and having like terms pop up and be like, huh? What does that mean? Ibrahim also says, make sure chat is off during GOTY deliberations. I don't want outside interference. Definitely need outside interference during GOTY deliberations. It's kind of one of the joys of making it live, but I think maybe we won't have that. Maybe we'll have the TV over here, or like, I don't think that should be the center of attention, but I would like to have somebody on chat because people are going to suggest stuff. People are going to suggest things that we might have missed, and if there's anything we might have missed, I definitely want to bring in the conversation. So, but you know, not something that we're referencing all the time, and certainly not something that we're letting influence us beyond the fact that somebody might throw something out that's cool. Turbo Chicken Man, did you by accident or otherwise read my Raymond Chow's question last episode? Some of the questions were out of order for sure. I did. Totally skipped it. I think I pasted it, but maybe I didn't, but I got it right here. So sorry about that, and thanks for not asking a second question, but just for sticking to this one. I did say something that a comment that you made. I think you made a clarification, and I skipped your actual question. Let's go on. We'll get to that in 2 seconds. Let me do Corn Fan really quick. What's in your smoothie? Do you make it fresh or buy a product? In my smoothie is Soylent, ground up human beings I put in there. Nope, the Soylent, the supplement, the meal replacement, blueberries, and a banana. Frozen blueberries and a banana. And water. Every time. I love that so much. Being able to just like, I know what I'm gonna have for breakfast. That's one less thing I can check off. As long as I go to bed knowing that there's a banana and frozen berries and that, then I can just have my breakfast in a cup. And it's the best thing ever. Turbo Chicken Man asked last week, Pop Fiction was one of the hottest shows back in GT's glory days, and its successor Game Sleuth has shown that there's still plenty of demand for the format. The audience around Game Sleuth has actually expanded exponentially since Game Sleuth has gotten a lot more views since we initially posted it, and so it's a success. With 2 of its episodes in EZA's top 10 most watched videos, both ahead of EZA's most watched review. However, while Pop Fiction is monthly, Game Sleuth isn't even quarterly, with the existing episodes having been released 4 to 6 months apart. As best you can, as it's Damiani's thing, can you explain what it would take to get Game Sleuth at least somewhat closer to a Pop Fiction-like schedule? I personally think it should be one of EZA's highest priorities, given how it, reviews, and reactions seem to be the only EZA products reaching a wider audience at the moment. True. It's kind of the same thing with me and Retros, where it's like, what's going on with me and Retros? You know, there is a version of the next episode, the Bloodborne episode of the Souls Retro, but it's hard for me to fit that into my schedule. And so we started Easy Allies with the knowledge that, yeah, things, the bigger tentpole stuff, obviously events were going to take precedence over everything. And so, like, I went to a preview event last week. That embargo hasn't come up yet, so I can't talk about it yet. So it's just like an erratic schedule. And so I think hopefully what we've conveyed over time is what fits into that schedule, what you can expect on a regular basis that we will be consistent about, what you can expect semi-consistently, stuff that we don't, reviews. We don't do a review every single day, but we're going to do, at least probably 1 or 2 reviews a week, and we're going to be out there, reviewing some of the biggest games. Huber's working on PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds right now. We still have the Divinity Original Sin 2 review coming in. So there are projects, that take a little while, but, we will get to those when we can. And then there's Game Sleuth and Retros. I'm trying to think. We have nothing like Timeline Caliber. I'm trying to think of like the bigger stuff like that. And we have other show ideas that we want to do, but there's always the question of, when are we going to get to that stuff? And I think it's tricky because with Retros, the thing with me and Retros was the Souls retrospective wasn't my idea. It was something that I said I was going to work on. And so with Game Sleuth, like, that's Damiani wanting to do it, Damiani producing it, Damiani delivering it. And so when they happen and when he prioritizes that is strictly a Damiani question. So I can't, again, it is a Damiani thing. And so I can't, directly comment on what it would take because that involves his interest in doing that. If we woke up tomorrow and our Patreon was getting $1 million, and I was able to call all the allies one by one and be like, hey, what do you want to do? Obviously, our Thursday meeting this week would be much different, if we were at that level. And it wouldn't start with, all right, how are we going to do more game sleuths? The conversation would begin, okay, is that even something that you want to do now that we have these other opportunities? And so that's the thing. It's like, it's one of the only EZA products reaching a wider audience at the moment. That is true, and those numbers are great. And we definitely want to strive for that. But I want to keep these allies creatively satisfied and happy with their jobs more than anything. And so I want to make sure that they like doing what they're doing. Doesn't mean he doesn't like doing Game Sleuth. It just means you have to take the right opportunities for the schedule that you have and the abilities that you have. And for me, for a lot of the decisions that I might be making in 2018, looking at things that I've just been doing for a long time. It's like you said, like that was one of the hottest shows back in GT's glory days, but you don't want to, do something forever if you don't have to. So those are all potentials. That's all me talking out of my butt, about Michael Damiani. None of that is quoting him or talking about decisions that he's going to make. And ultimately, that's up to him. So I got a retro to make, man. I don't have time to worry about Game Sleuth. Chris Gorgaris is my guess. What is your favorite Harry Potter moment in any of the books? Yeah, it's a spoiler. I don't know if people haven't finished. I'm gonna be okay. This is non-spoilery. I mean, you could bail for the next 30 seconds if you want to, but I'm gonna keep it very, very non-spoilery. When Neville does the thing at the end of the last book, Neville's moment. There. That was it was like the end of The Natural when Robert Redford just hits that home run. That was so sweet. That was like, yep, beep, it was the opposite of Snoke. Where you're like, there you go. It was the opposite of Ned Stark, where you're like, whoops, see ya. It was like, that's why he did all the things he did for everything. Like, yes. Andy Zolkeefly, since the inception of EZA, whenever Sea of Thieves was brought up, almost all the allies went crazy about it, including during last week's podcast. I watched some of the trailers, and I do not see what was so amazing about it. I felt like I was in a similar position as you were when No Man's Sky was being demoed before it launched. It is just an online multiplayer game that involves pirates, with cartoonish characters, and it was developed by Rare, a company that has lost its shine after Microsoft acquired them, and this looks like a last-ditched attempt to restore their reputation. I had spoken to other patrons about this, and based on the conversation, I realized that the game is not what you called groundbreaking, hence, I do not understand the allies' hype around it. Yeah, groundbreaking is a bad word. I'll try to frame it differently. Is there something about this game that I left out? Therefore, I would like to ask you from your perspective, what is so amazing about Sea of Thieves? Perhaps you can even share the question to the rest of the allies, as I am keen to hear from them. They can provide their opinion during the group stream as a suggestion. I'll tell you what's great about Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves, I mean, think about Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild is a much better game than Sea of Thieves is going to be, but Breath of the Wild is not multiplayer. And part of what's so amazing about Breath of the Wild is that there was already a structure in place, and they took a step back and simplified it to kind of allow you to do, not allow you to do a lot of things, because that's a dangerous conversation. That's a dangerous thing to bring up about Sea of Thieves, because you're right, it does invoke that No Man's Sky, where it's like you could do anything as a pirate. You can't. There are very specific things that you can do to put on the pirate hat and pretend to be a pirate. It's just that it's very matter of fact about how it does it in Sea of Thieves. And it is really about, it's kind of like Payday, where it really isolates that specific moment, that fear that you have going on a long voyage to try to get a reward. And knowing that the second you leave point A to go to point B, you are in danger. You're in danger from AI, you're in danger from other players, you're in danger from your own stupidity, you're in danger from your partners who might be, inept, and you're in danger from the elements. There's just a lot of things that are they're gonna go wrong. And so there's the desire of doing that and trying to overcome that as a group. And then, of course, there's the desire to troll and to seek out other people that are trying to do that and stop them at the absolute worst possible moment. And so it's that personally, I don't know why, but I feel a very natural connection to being inside of a ship while it is on the open ocean. That is something that I've longed to feel in games. Like, I remember playing Wind Waker for the first time and just like weeping with joy. Like, I can't believe I can see that island from that far away and just like get to it and then just show up on the shore and just walk off onto the shore. And so it's like that openness that is so liberating. So that's part of it. It's refreshing that it doesn't have like a super heavy story component to it. It's not like we're making a pirate MMO or it's like Skull and Bones. We're making a tactical multiplayer, like third-person shooter, really. You know, like a strategy tactics game with battleships. It's just like it's because, like you were saying, it's like all I'm seeing is just cartoony people running around shooting, and like, you can't really point to the other pirate game that did that. Like, there's not a lot of pirate games that were just like, I'm just gonna let you be a pirate, and we're just gonna do that. We're just gonna do a multiplayer pirate game where we're all pirating at each other. That is just, it's very unique, and it's so simple in its conception that it's actually difficult to execute, because where do you draw the line? And it's really interesting where they draw that line as far as what's automated versus what isn't, like how you actually operate that ship, how you navigate, the fact that you can't set waypoints, you got to check that map, you can't just hit a button to do something, you got to walk over to it and do it. So it really, to me, differentiates if you have a group of people that are really good at Sea of Thieves, they're unstoppable, or I think possibly will be. Like, there will be legitimate terrors on the open sea that you will see, possibly names of like guilds and stuff that you'll recognize. Like, and what you're risking in that endeavor from point A to point B is completely up to you. So like, you can go get something and then bring it back to your base and you're fine. But if you go get something and then you're kind of close to something else that you want to go get, again, it's being in the mind of a pirate. It's being in the mind of somebody who's just running and gunning across the ocean and trying to get as much as they can. So it sounds simple, but it is that simplicity to me that's so interesting, which is why I think it's an unfair comparison with No Man's Sky. I think I completely understand where you're coming from, which is why I tried to explain it for somebody that I think was in my position when I was frustrated about No Man's Sky, because I was not frustrated with the game No Man's Sky. I was like, I think I want to play that game. I was frustrated with the advertising, because I'm like, I don't think you're describing the game that I'm seeing. So hopefully I'm describing the game that you're seeing, in that I don't want to use the verbiage that like, it's every pirate dream come true. It's a game where you go steal stuff and come back. And you do that over and over and over and over and over again. And whenever you do that, you try not to bump into people, or you try to, if that's what you want to do. That's Sea of Thieves. But when I'm on the back of one of the ships in that game, and I can look out the back window, which, correct me if I'm wrong, very few games have let you do, a third-person or first-person game that lets you go into a ship, inside of an interior of the ship, and look out of a window in the back. It sounds so silly, but it was just one of those little chips on my shoulder that, like, when Assassin's Creed 4 came out, I was like, it's an interior when you actually go into the captain's quarters. And so just sitting on the back there and watching the waves go by, like, that's enough for me. And I imagine some people could watch that and be like, that looks super boring. So yeah, maybe Sea of Thieves isn't for you, but that's why I'm crazy about it. There's also the work tie-in, which is having a multiplayer game like that we can play against, you know, a Game Attack or a What's Good Games or Kind of Funny. If we can challenge like another channel, like us being pirates, that sounds like fun. So I'm excited about that as well. I'm excited to play it with the Allies specifically. I mean, a pirate game playing with Michael Huber, that sounds like one of the best things in 2018. Logan Tawes, have you ever considered switching up the "I'm enjoying these microtransactions" line at the end of the podcast? I wish it didn't have the little at the end, but I start to say something else, and that's as clean as I could get that. I get it's a tradition thing, but speaking for myself, I think it'd be funnier if you instead took one random out-of-context quote from that week's podcast and played that at the end instead. Logan, that's a really good idea. That would be better, creatively. That would make the show better. It would be a better moment, and it'd be something really cool to look forward to. The clip at the end of the podcast has been out of my control ever since we started doing that at Game Trailers. I was not even aware that was in the podcast because I didn't cut the podcast, and I didn't listen to it afterwards because I was on it. So I didn't know we were doing that for a long. People come up and they'd be like, "I love the Xbox," and I was like, "Whoa!" People seem to like remember that quote that I made a long time ago. I don't know why people are parroting that at me. So I was given that by Kyle when we started the Easy Allies podcast, and he put that in. And what's really great about the clip, actually, if you listen to the whole thing, immediately after I say, I'm really enjoying these microtransactions. I think I was talking about Galaxy of Heroes or Hearthstone or something. And you've enjoyed microtransactions too. You have. At some point in your life, you've enjoyed them. So don't give me that face. but you can hear Kyle immediately. Me after saying it, you can hear Kyle go. You can hear the like when he bobs his head. Hi, Sophie. Yes, I know. We're just inside and it's horrible. She just got a bath. She's so clean. Here, let's do it. Come on. Where Kyle will, the shoulders will hunch and his head will jet forward, and he just can't. He can't not laugh, but he doesn't want to laugh because he wants to hear the rest of it, and he's moderating, and so he wants to be civil and he wants to be nice. And Sophie just wants to be outside. She's like, there's birds, there's squirrels, there's cats. Why can't I? She's even like looking over there. She's just like, and now she's just like, okay, all right, I gotta love Sophie for like 10 minutes. But yeah, out of my control. Stuart Jack, you mentioned in the past episode that you decided not to stream on the New Year's as you believed everyone would be at a party so wouldn't watch. There are always people alone for the holidays, especially Christmas and New Year's. I once spent a New Year's playing Call of Duty 2, having an awesome time with people I didn't know from all over Europe over New Year's while talking on TeamSpeak. That's awesome. Being online in an online multiplayer game when New Year's hits, I bet is pretty sweet. I'm not even saying that one person out there would have watched, but there may have been someone at home alone that would have been glad excuse me, to spend a cozy New Year's watching you stream. This makes me think of, it's a good point, Stuart. It makes me think of something else. I don't know if you can hear her like brushing up against the mic. That brings me to a good point, which is something that I'm excited about. I've been thinking about The Office a lot. I've been thinking about The Office now that it's 2018 and looking ahead at the year and seeing how close we are and being like, okay, that's next goal. Let's get there. Okay, Sophie, good girl. But not only The Office, but what that'll mean for me here. What that'll mean for me getting my garage back. And one thing that's really exciting is, so the PC that we have would move, and I'd get another PC, possibly a PC laptop, so I could stream from here. And it'd be really fascinating, like, setting up that setup and having the camera. So like when I do Cup of Jones, I have to grab the camera from up there, and it's a small step. It's not a big deal, but like a lot of the times when you're like, oh, that thing didn't work, or like, oh, they forgot to plug that in. It's because we're just like constantly moving and shuffling things around, and so it's just, sometimes you forget a step. And so locking down the Jones stream setup, I think would contribute to me streaming a lot more. And streaming a lot more, like I'm envious of Damiani, man. It just seems like whenever I bring up like the Twitch site to just check something, I'm like, oh, it's 4 in the morning. What is he doing? And it'd be fun to just pop in every now and then. It'd be fun to, if I have a rant or if I have a comment or if there's just something, a mode I wanted to do, or getting back to Brandon Go, even if it's like a 20-minute episode where I'm just like, hey, look at this weird app. Like, I want to stream a lot more. I want to communicate. I love communicating live. I love this. This is one of my favorite things about my job. So, getting to expound upon your comments, Stuart, moving into an office would help me do that. Hopefully. James McCoy, any plans to auction off your painting from last night's stream? I'm sure there are many allies who would pay a pretty penny for that or similar Easy 8 memorabilia. Definitely. Yeah, we talked about that. I will leave it at that. Brian Denu, what's your dream Star Wars video game? With the cancellation of Amy Hennig's game and Battlefield 2 being a flop, was it a flop? Is it a flop? I wonder how much money it actually made. I found myself fantasizing about getting back to play KOTOR. I mean, you could say Battlefront 2 was bad. When you say a flop, to me, flop means did not make as much money as it should have. Could have is a different thing. I found myself fantasizing about going back to play KOTOR, or maybe a port of Jedi Outcast. But with the perpetual hype around Star Wars these days, I'm feeling the lack of new games more than ever. If you could have any Star Wars game from any era, what would that be? I've surely talked about this, but I want to talk about it again. Because Cup of Jones is weekly now. Cup of Jones is live. We need to get back to this. This game needs to happen, damn it. You want to talk about my absolute Star Wars dream game? My Star Wars dream game is called Star Wars Jedi. Just Jedi. Imagine in the Jedi font, just that word, Jedi. It stars every single character you have ever seen in any medium hold a lightsaber ever, including Han Solo in his Hoth gear. Including Finn. If they've held it, if you're a Warsaw character, like, turn on the lightsaber, they are in something. Even if it's like a kid from a commercial or somebody, anybody. And the campaign, you play as these new characters as you go through, and if you play a story chapter, so like say it opens with Yoda, and Yoda's like 200 years old. It's a super crazy, weird looking young Yoda. And he's spry as hell and jumping around and going on some crazy mission. And then you can level Yoda up, kind of like Injustice, where you have all of these characters that you can, you know, mod and upgrade and find loot boxes, like all that stuff. then you move on to the second level, which is like Obi-Wan or like Luke, like maybe setting up the training thing before, you know, like training Kylo or something. And the point is, every level is not from the films. These are all some other crazy thing that like these characters did, and you're a different character in the campaign throughout the whole thing, and you unlock cool stuff so that if people just want to play multiplayer, they can do that. But it's like, you should play the campaign because you unlock cool costume things and maybe like an amazing character at the end of it. Like Darth Maul, like a training level with him training under Sidious. And then there's multiplayer, where it's third person, 1v1, 2v2, 4v4, 16 battle royale, like as many different multiplayer modes as you can do with just Jedi. So it's just force powers, just lightsabers. That's it. That's all you do. You just have some, like, that's what I hope that, not Infinity Ward, but that Respawn is working. Respawn's working on that, right? Yeah. That's like my hope and dream. When they're like, we're playing with lightsabers. I'm like, you better, don't have that be a cutscene in some shooter you're making. Just don't tease with the, you know... Somebody made a video of, like, I remember the Wii first came out of, like, oh, it'd be cool to get a Star Wars game. And, like, it never happened. Like, we still have yet to really get... You know, there's, like, they were doing some fun stuff in VR lately, but it's, like, you know, it's neat, and it's... I would much rather hold lightsaber in VR than, like, a big axe or, like, a big gun, because it's, like, it doesn't feel like anything, but lightsaber's nice, because, like, I imagine a lightsaber being kind of light and strange to hold. But there it is. That's the... I want them... like you were talking about Jedi Outcast. It's like, it's 2018. Why haven't we perfected that? Why did we just get to Force Unleashed 2 and go, well, I guess, you know, the online, just click on a thing and it'll animate. Ugh. Hello. Where do we go? Diamond Crusader. Did Kyle play Uncharted 4 without audio while also listening to a podcast or sports radio? And if you don't know the answer to that, I don't. Did you know that my avatar here on Patreon is showing the tongue of the Wii Fit Trainer? I guess the female Wii Fit Trainer. I guess there's more trainers than the original Wii Fit Trainer. I'm just going to leave that comment. I didn't know that. So there you go. There's the answer to that. But curious. Curious selection. Curious comment. Curious all around. Alex Castellanos, I just wanted to encourage you ahead of your 2017 GOTY deliberation stream. I need some encouragement, Alex. Thanks, I appreciate this. I know that sometimes the commenters can press the right buttons or make you feel like you may have messed up. But no matter what goes down tonight, I wanted you to know that I love all the allies, and I know that you all tried your best to make a good presentation while staying as true to yourselves as possible. The GOTY's kind of being a mess is part of it. I hope that this is unnecessary, but if it becomes necessary, hear this. You did good. Thank you. I'm always a fan of it. I should clip that out and fold it up and put it in my pocket, so that when I'm clearing out my pockets before I go to bed tonight, I'll be like, Alex said we did okay. Morgan Mohala, getting personal every week. Thank you for responding to personal questions. I should explain that though it may seem superfluous to ask more about yourself in an investors meeting, Cup of Jones, I think it is important to know what kind of a person helms the allies. I don't mean to pry, so I won't make too much of a habit of these Brandon-focused questions. Again, feel free to omit any of you do not like. Number one, how do you feel about confrontation? I sometimes get the impression you try to avoid it. Do you think confrontation can be healthy? Yes. I think sometimes people don't know how to do healthy confrontation. I always feel good every time after, at some point, maybe not immediately after, but there always is a sense of satisfaction after I have an argument with Amanda. We've been married for 10 years. I've known her for about 4 or 5 years more than that. So we've been together for about 15 years. We've had some pretty crazy arguments. There was one time I was like walking Sophie. What I learned, and I almost never do, because it's the dumbest thing you can do, is like, especially for a spousal argument, is to walk away. Like, come on. You know, it's like, I'm gonna storm away and that's gonna solve stuff. I mean, sometimes you're just so angry, but it's like, it's never gonna, when you're actually in the act of walking away, the thing you think you're doing to solve the situation, I don't think is working. And it always feels that way. I always feel, there's always like the one guy on my shoulder whenever I walk away from an argument that's like, come on. But the point that I'm making about Amanda is, I always learn so much, and when you get to the point, when you finally find out there it is, like that's the thing underneath all of that other, you know, nonsense we were talking about, that's the problem. And I think a lot of those, exist, that like we just get entangled in these vines and you can't find like the seed at the bottom of the actual issue, like the thing that, God, if we were just talking about that the whole time, we couldn't have, because I see people say things to each other that it's like, you're making a good point, you're making a good point, but that thing you just said, in the way you said it, even just adding like 1 or 2 words, was antagonistic. And so it's like, it seems like you kind of put a punctuation or like a comment on the thing you said that seemed to suggest, I'm not interested in you agreeing with me. Like, I'm not interested in actually making a point. I don't want you to be happy when you respond to me. I don't want you to come back in a way that'll continue this conversation constructively. I want to piss you off, you know, and like and it's like, do you mean to do that, or are you messing with me, right? Yeah, it's so. I enjoy good confrontations. I enjoy the outcomes of positive confrontations. So in that way, I look forward to it. But if I can step and go somewhere else, I'll try. Number 2, what is something that you think most people misunderstand about yourself? Misunderstand about myself? I'm pretty cookie cutter. I think if you try to read the cover of this book, that's pretty much it. Well, the one thing I guess that I don't think about a lot, maybe this. Maybe a lot of people are like, hey, you know, the on-camera stuff you do is great, and the maybe people are saying this, but the voiceover, like people are like, hey, you got a good voice and you sound good when you do that stuff. I did a lot of theater. And I've talked about this a lot. Ian and I talk about theater all the time, which is great. It's fun to have a theater buddy and Easy Allies. And there are people that appreciate theater. Like I imagine the guys would go see theater if I would recommend it. But it's nice to bring up something like Company, you know, and have, you know, Ian be like, I know what Company is. Like, yes. The voice stuff, whether it's on camera or on a mic, was me doing theater ever since I was like 10. So that's where that came from. Like, it had nothing to do with narration. Like, I think that's kind of where I naturally found a comfort zone. And I think it also, the narration just happens to fit to just how I sound, just the natural quality of my voice. But yeah, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of theater. And I only bring that up because that was my life. I mean, I was like into movies, and I wanted to like direct or write movies someday, or like maybe get into television. I wasn't like huge into television when I was a kid. I was really into movies, very much into comic books, and just way into theater, just way into making weird stuff and getting on stage with my friends. So, sound familiar? But was weird to just kind of stop that when I went to college, and then completely get into video production now. And so it's been an interesting balance, the stageness and the singing and the dancing and the memorization of lines and understanding of choreography and acting, and then editing and lighting and, you know, audio and mics and cameras and live streaming. And crazy. It's a crazy planet. Number 3. Do you have any deeply held negative opinions in the video games industry? I love that number 3 is always like, who are you pissed at? For the Morgan questions. Do you have any who's your least favorite ally is going to be in the next batch. Do you have any deeply held negative opinions in the video games industry? Producers, series, specific games, execution. Any negative? Oh, I got one. Hey, here's a hot take. I didn't like KOTOR when it first came out. I was not a fan. I actually have a lot of issues with KOTOR. I will say the good things about KOTOR. KOTOR's got a killer twist. One of the best in all of video games. One of the best ruses that was spoiled for me, actually, because I was not interested in playing KOTOR. And I asked a friend, I'm like, what is it? Everybody's saying that, ooh, there's this thing, and I'm not going to spoil it. But and the person told me, and I was like, oh, that's pretty damn clever. And when I played it, it was fun playing the game and knowing it was coming, and kind of designing the game to fit that narrative, and then seeing that unfold was like really, really fascinating. And KOTOR is an excellent game. It's not one of the greats. But it is a great video game. If I saw that on a top 100, I wouldn't bat an eye. Like, that's an incredible, incredible game. And BioWare's an amazing studio, and that's like one of the best things they've ever produced. But at the time, that game was not my cup of tea. I wanted action games from the Star Wars franchise. And so when and granted, I didn't grow up, I played Baldur's Gate, but I didn't grow up on a lot of those types of games. So this is going to seem extremely ignorant. But when I first ran out and then paused and like aimed my pistol at a person and was like, select the shoot for the turn-based. And I'd played turn-based game. I played Chrono Trigger, I played Final Fantasy VI, I played 7, I played 8. Like, I had played, you know, turn-based games. I just didn't know, oh, that's what this is? And I was like, I don't know if I want that from Star Wars. Like, I don't know if I want to freeze a Star Wars action sequence. And now I totally understand the value of that. Now, in 2018, I have since played KOTOR and KOTOR 2 all the way to completion. Played KOTOR twice, I think, because I played it again for the retro. And I had to play it a little bit again because I had to get gameplay of an evil character, which thank goodness Jeremy Hoffman had a save of his like super decked out evil character in KOTOR. I was like, yes. So I went back through and loaded a bunch of saves and played through that a little bit. But yeah, it was not my cup of tea when it first came out. And one of the issues that I have with KOTOR is that, and this is just one of those dumb Jones hangups, is it's recognizable in Star Wars, and I don't think it should be because it's thousands of years in the past. And so it's frustrating for when I finally got into it with that concept, and especially if you actually go and read the comic books that Knights of the Old Republic is based on. They're really weird, and they're what I think Star Wars needs, which is super out there storylines, like stuff that's just like, whoa, what a big galaxy if this is in it as well, you know? And so I think there's the fear every time you're producing something Star Wars to like have astromech droids, to have X-Wings, to have ships that look like the Falcon but just in a different shape, like to have Jedi that are wearing the robes that everybody else did, like having similar style lightsabers and structures and buildings. But just like the droids, like also seeing the first droid in KOTOR, I was like, are you serious? Like you couldn't make a different looking droid? And like there are different droids, but they're just not... one thing I've not been impressed with KOTOR was like how unusual it is, you know, like it's a very traditional Star Wars world, yeah, so that was kind of a bummer that they didn't get weird, and I mean weird. Like I remember thinking like, yeah, there were some aliens that they made up, and there were some planets you hadn't been to before. Read those comics, like ships made out of bug skin and stuff, like really weird, you know, thousands of years ago to show like, whoa, we've really come a long way. But yeah, blah blah blah. Old man yells at clouds. It does not make KOTOR an incredible, best-selling, one of the best RPGs of all time. So there you go. But yeah, there you go. Deeply, you know, it's a deeply held opinion. I don't know if it's negative or not. But German Scientist, what are some of your favorite missions or memorable moments from each GTA game or the series as a whole? God, we gotta talk about spoilers. The end of GTA 4 is great. I love that they give you a tough choice to make at the end of GTA 4, and I played both and watched them to their completion, and then did the same thing with 5. I gotta talk about 5 though, because 5 is so great. I guess this isn't like a spoiler because it's not a specific story moment, but I like how they separate the characters in 5. Until you get to a point in that story where they're all together and they're all, you know, doing stuff. And then even after that, they separate them a little bit. But I loved starting as one character and then completely switching over to another character and being that character for a very long time. And then sneaking that first character back in. And then there's the third, which is Trevor, that's just gone. That's like that leaves GTA 5 for a very long time. And I think it was interesting how popular Trevor was in the advertising for GTA 5. And then when people finally played the campaign, it was like, where's Trevor? And then they, you know, really smartly, I think, you know, drop him in there. So I remember that just being really rewarding, like finally getting the crew and seeing them finally doing things together and just referencing each other. And the way that those 3 stories split off at the end, which I will not get into because that is very spoilery, is very cool. I really enjoyed that. On many fronts, not just because like, whoa, that cutscene, or like, oh, that line of dialogue. There was just so many different layers of it that didn't come at you all at once, that you just kind of slowly unfolded over time. That were cool. It's a good mission in like GTA 3. I like what's fun about the old games is I like doing the cheats and making the missions like super easy. I like because I like thinking the RP of that, like I'm the Punisher or Hitman or something, that like, yeah, I brought a rocket launcher to this mission, what? You know, I like going back and breaking the game that way. And getting into the mindset of just being like just a stone cold killer. Stefan Vlemix, I've got a personal question that kind of relates to what you're doing now. When did you know that you wanted to do what you're doing now and what you were doing in game trailers? I don't know what the heck I'm doing now. And I don't know if I want to do it anymore. And if not, then what did you want to do become as an adult? And have video games always interested in you? I wanted to be a director. I wanted to be Steven Spielberg. That was like one of the first 2 pings that I got for wanting to do stuff was I saw Jesus Christ Superstar and I was like, wait, these kids are in school doing this? And I was like, oh, I want to do that when I go to school. I want to be in the shows. That looks like fun. And watching like Raiders and Jaws and E.T. and being like, one guy made all these movies that I like. I want to see what he does, and I still want to do that. I think actually the director mentality I don't think is necessarily me. I think I have more of like a writer's mind or a producer, somebody that's just like, yeah, I want to like put all the eggs in one basket and kind of give you that basket, but like once we're actually on set dealing with fine, deal with that. I don't necessarily need to be that close to the fire, but it's exciting, just like starting Easy Allies, it's exciting to give people the opportunity to do fun things creatively, and so I think I get the best vibes from that. But yeah, that's why I wanted to go to film school, and then what I got out of film school was nonlinear video editing, and my obsession with video games is lifelong. Ever since I first got a chance to play video games, I owned an Atari 2600 and then an NES, and then I've owned every single video game console except for the Saturn and the Dreamcast. I own a Dreamcast now, but it doesn't count because I got it through Game Trailer, so it doesn't count. Didn't own it at the time. Had enough friends that had it and played Virtua Tennis and Soul Calibur and Sonic and stuff like that through them. Didn't play Resident Evil Code Veronica for a long time. Didn't play that until it came to PS2 years later, and didn't finish it until we did the Resident Evil retrospective. Resident Evil tangent, but yeah, video games took over because video games are just it was almost kind of like, I want to be a director or I want to be an actor in video games, just like, like there's also that other thing that you can't stop doing. Alex Yunker, I'm sure this has been asked, but what's your opinion on Batman Beyond? I don't think we've talked about Batman Beyond specifically. Again, more Batman. Batman Beyond's dope. I've definitely seen all of the episodes of Sophie's excited about something. Maybe one of the allies is here. Damiani might be here. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, she's going to the back door. She thinks, calm down, Soph. We got another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, Soph. We're on page 5. The Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie is one of my favorite Batman things anyone has ever produced, ever. That movie wrecked me the first time I saw it. I was not prepared for what Paul Dini was comfortable doing with this childhood that I had amassed from watching Batman the Animated Series. I enjoyed Beyond. I think I got kind of disillusioned with Beyond a little bit because I was just exhausted. Like I just voraciously consumed all of the animated series, and then they went right into Justice League and Unlimited, and and then they started making other animated shows, and I think I dug the story from Beyond, but it wasn't like appointment viewing, or I didn't need to see all those episodes. I think I missed a couple, but love the concept, love the story, love Kevin Conroy's work, and have been fortunate enough actually to meet Will Friedle. I always pronounce his last name wrong. Who's a very, very nice guy, and it was weird to see him play Nightwing though. He was Nightwing or Robin in one of the other movies that they made. Or I think he might have been Batman, actually, which was bad idea. Don't do that. Don't mix the voices with the bad. Joey and Kate, you should try VR chat. No, I've been reading bad stories about VR chat. I played I can't remember the name of it, but there's a VR MMO which fascinated me, which I played, and I log into this world, and there's all these bald characters walking around, they're with no legs, and their arms are disconnected from their bodies, doing all these VR things. And they see me when I drop into this MMO, Orbis, I think it's called, and I drop into this MMO, and everybody crowds me. They're all ooh, it's like the aliens from Toy Story, and they all just swarm me, and I just logged off immediately. I was like, nope, can't, no, not. If I'm playing a VR MMO, I want to be a fly on the wall, I want to be like Strider in Lord of the Fellowship, just chilling in the corner smoking a pipe. I don't want to get crowded. That was an interesting experience. Cam Smith. All right, Jones, Disney talk at long last. I'm sitting here writing this from a Disney World resort as a first-timer in a theme park. I think this is the first Cup of Jones comment, I believe, written inside of Disney World. Also, a first-timer Australian in the US, and although I've been an avid follower since back in the early GT days, I'm talking audio recording of Amanda showing up at work while we were recording in the booth for Dawn of War Monkey. She called me Monkey. At first-time commenter on anything Easy Allies, and I'm using it for this. What is all the fuss about It's a Small World? Why do you love it so much? Easy on the It's a Small World love. I don't think I've ever said the words, I love It's a Small World so much. I admit that it's pretty awesome with the amount of tech going on in there, but beyond that, I'm curious to know why you rave about it. Again, please timestamp and link the raving I have done. I enjoy what they do over Christmas. I think it's really great, and they do a fun thing in the front. We'll talk about it. But beyond that, I'm curious to know why you rave about it. Did I miss something? Plus, it smells kind of funky. I'd love some more insight. We're here at Walt Disney World for another 10 days. If you have any other advice, Walt Disney World, yeah, I don't know you or your tastes, or I don't know what you're saying, or but it's just great. Just try to go to all the parks. They're all really interesting. Don't rule out Epcot. Epcot's fun, and apparently they've added a lot of crazy stuff to Epcot since the last time I've been there. It's great food at Epcot. So yeah, Epcot's an easy one for people to be like, we can skip Epcot, but I don't want to bankrupt you. But It's a Small World's fine. Let me also clarify that there's no such thing as It's a Small World. You're specifically referring to It's a Small World in Walt Disney World, which is vastly inferior to the It's a Small World in Anaheim. For starters, the entrance to It's a Small World is they just redid Fantasyland, which is amazing. But there's like a hallway in Fantasyland that's super weird. Like you go from like Haunted Mansion in Fantasyland, and then there's like a mini mall where there's just like a bunch of rides. There's like a Peter Pan ride that like the ride itself is really great. Like they added a bunch of really cool tech to the line when you're going in, but the outside looks like a barbershop. Like it's not like the outside here is like Big Ben and like a cool rooftop of wood, and like it just, the whole package is one big themed thing. And outside of It's a Small World, it's just like, it's a ride. It's kind of like a carnival vibe. And you go inside the ride, and then it kind of has like an open space that's, honestly nice when you're in Florida and it's super hot, because it gets hotter there than it does in California, but it gets more humid, definitely. But so it's nice to be inside and have the air conditioning on and like the fans and stuff like that when you're like quote unquote outside looking at the front of Small World. But the front of Small World in LA is outside in Anaheim. It's a very big structure, and recently they've started to project light shows on it. So they do a show over Christmas. I don't know if they still do that, where they take photos throughout the day and then they put those photos in the show. I once got a photo taken for it and watched the show and didn't see it happen, so I don't know if I just missed the corner of where it was or if that's all just a big sham. But they also do a thing, I think every hour during Christmas, where they play something from the Nutcracker. I don't remember the actual name of the track. And they do a light show where they project something that looks like the front of Small World onto Small World. And that is so cool to watch. It's very unusual, especially growing up with that giant structure. But Small World itself, again, I'm only talking about the one in Anaheim. The one in Florida is whatever. It's also kind of fun, but even the interior is a little, I dig ours. It's bigger, it's better. And it's a 15-minute ride when you go through. Obviously, you got to hear that tune every now and then. But every now and then on loop. But over Christmas, they bring in a ton of Christmas decorations, and they play It's a Small World and Jingle Bells, I think, in multiple languages, and they go back and forth. So at least you get a little, Jingle Bell Small World break. But it's a fascinating structure. It's a great time saver, or not time saver, but it's a fun ride to just put the kids on and just chill. During Christmas, the line can get pretty crazy, but it's usually like, shouldn't be longer than about half an hour on any given day. If it's longer than half an hour, don't do it. But it's neat. It premiered at a World Fair, and they actually moved the whole thing. They created that ride somewhere where you went through it, and then when everybody at the World's Fair was like, "Oh, that ride was cool," they like packed the whole thing up in trucks and drove it to Anaheim and dumped it off. Or maybe flew it. I don't know. I don't know what that World's Fair was. And rebuilt it in Small World. So it's fascinating that way. And it's an interesting centerpiece because just visually it's cool. It's at the end of Fantasyland, so when you finally curve around the Matterhorn, or when you take a left, when you get to the teacups, you see, especially at Christmas, you see this giant lit up thing, and there's a big smiling clock on the front, and every 15 minutes this like parade of things come out of it, and they do a big show. So like there's just more going on around Small World in Anaheim. And again, it's just like a Blockbuster Video at Walt Disney World. It's just in a really weird spot that doesn't give it the grandeur that makes up for a lot of the what the hell did I just watch when you go through it, where you're just like, okay, there's all these little weird robot things. I find it fascinating. Oh, and in Anaheim, they actually added a bunch of characters like from Toy Story and Pinocchio, and relative to where you would find them, like Alice is in Britain from Alice in Wonderland. So they did add some stuff later on. But to leave you with a little Small World lore, talked about Small World for a very long time. it fascinates me that there is a standard child design where, you know, kind of a cute little face, little tiny mouth that just like clicks open and shut, little like doll hands, and, you know, probably about like that tall. But there are other human beings on that ride. There are animals, but there are other representations of people that are not that design. So discuss on your own. What's going on there? Anthony O'Cohen, how's your day been so far? Good. Stressful. I meditated before, so I'm nice and calm. When I get past the hour of Cup of Jones, I always feel nice and chill. This is always a really nice place to be. I'm ignoring chat for a while, so that might be why I'm so calm. See if everything's going wrong. It's Christoph Tui says it's not warm where he is. Daniel Garza Andrade, what was your darkest moment during EZA? And the brightest one, too. Your darkest moment. The ones that you said, why did I do this? Or what the hell was I thinking? And a pure genius moment, too. I will say the brightest was Easy Livin'. The conceiving of it, the execution of it, the fact that everybody had a good time, streaming for that long, going to other websites, hearing people talk about the event, and that being something that a lot of people were doing. That was fun. I think somebody else inspired that idea, but that was to actually execute that was my idea. So I gave myself a nice pat on the back for that one. Because it was fun, not because it was like, woo, that was amazing, but it's like, well, we're doing that next year, because and I felt bad, because I'm like, I don't know if people are going to be like thinking we're rewarding ourselves. We're just like, we're going to take a fun vacation. Thanks for the money, patrons. But hopefully turning that into something that can be a celebration of what we do, and can be something that you enjoy tuning in. I saw somebody say, I got up, watched this for an hour, went to work, came home, watched some more, and then went to bed, and that made me happy that we were able to entertain somebody in that in a way that wouldn't have been possible a decade ago. Or not a lot of people were doing. It's probably possible. Darkest moment. Darkest moment. I don't know. Because I wanted it to be an interesting conversation topic. I wanted it to be something that is representative of, like, things that we had done poorly. I'll tell you about one. I spoiled something in Life is Strange, flippantly, in a podcast. Concerning Before the Storm, because Before the Storm's a prequel, and so I was like, well, here's what happens with that character, and the after fact was like, what the hell was my why did I do that? And it was just so jammed into that conversation that I didn't think of a clean way to do it before we cut stuff out, and so people really let me have it on social media, and I deserved it. That comes up a lot. That really sticks in me. I made an incorrect comment in the Shadow of the Colossus review back when I reviewed that on the PlayStation 2 at Game Trailers. I made an incorrect statement, and that has just haunted me ever since. I think about that a lot. And I really try not to spoil stuff now. Hopefully I've done an okay job here in Cup of Jones today. Mikkel Hervel Nemo. What is the best movie? Citizen Kane. Long reasons why, but sadly, it's the best movie. It's kind of fun. It's like Ocarina of Time. It's the best video game. It is. So we don't have to worry about that. It's Ocarina of Time's best. TV show best one. I don't know. Didn't watch enough TV. I'm not a big TV person, but it's tough. It's kind of like video games where you talk about, yeah, but that was an early game, and Super Mario Odyssey is better than Super Mario Brothers, so isn't it a better game on like top 100s? You're like, you have to consider a lot of things, and instead of trying to figure out which things has more value than an other thing, I just kind of like to think of everything as like a meter, and you just fill them up, and then if you look at a game and all the meters are full, that's a good game. If you think of a game that's like, well, there's no nostalgia because it just came out last year, and it's like, well, it's like, that one has some nostalgia. So in 2018, isn't that a better game? Like if it has that added value of just something, whether it's graphics or writing or like it's just another thing, another quality that game has. And so a lot of times you find, like, that's the thing about Ocarina of Time, is like when you look back at the whole expanse of video game development, it's just at this magical moment of just like 3D coming together and soundtracks and with the way they wrote the music and cutscenes and the way that you were able to view the environment and examine objects and experience the story at the same time, and the legacy it had before, and the steps that it made to games leading after it. And that's Citizen Kane. It was like the first time in my experience of studying film, the first time somebody was like, "No, I'm gonna make a movie." I'm not going to make one of those West End pictures. Like, I'm not going to make, like, I'm making a drama. He was like, no, I'm going to make a movie. And, like, what he did is the kind of crazy stuff you're seeing people do now. It's like that's movies now, where you have, like, when you see Breaking Bad and you're at like the top of a light pole and it's like, why did they get like a fire truck, I'm guessing, or crane, and get the camera all the way up there? What's the point? Like, Citizen Kane was one of the first movies that like kind of asked that, of just like, yeah, I'm gonna rip open the floor and put the camera down there. Like, I'm gonna do all sorts of crazy things that you look back now and it's like, this movie's boring. And like, yeah, it's a slow film, but it's a film in the vein of what movies are now, and incredibly forward thinking in a way that are often done by really, really special, unusual, creative minds that come up with crazy stuff like that. But it's just like, thinking of the most perfect movie is not something I'm gonna beat myself up about, because Citizen Kane is the easy answer, and like the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, that was a hell of a movie. That was a very hard movie to make. You can make Citizen Kane a lot easier now, but that's a crazy movie. But it's Biodome. Everybody knows it's Biodome, really. Kex, I just wanted to tell you that I feel it's my obligation as a patron and longtime fan to let you know that my personal finances have taken a positive step, and I am now able to go from $0 to $2. We got him. We got Kex. Kex, that's great. Kex, that, you know, you're all my favorites. Like, I love all of our patrons. I love all of our viewers. I love everybody involved in this whole crazy thing. But that's just so special and beautiful. I love that. Somebody, you know, making that decision. Like, I'm the type of person that would forget what my pledge was. You know, I mean, you know, I think I give $1. Maybe I give $5. I don't know. You know, like, in the fact that that weighed on you in some way. You know, that was something that was a goal that you set for yourself. And that's something that your finances, you know, making a $2 adjustment is something that, you know, you can make a decision like that. I'm humbled. Thank you, Kex. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the financial support. It's a small increment. It's everything, Kex. But hopefully my projects pull through, and I'll be able to bump that up even more. Good luck with your projects. We all got projects. I got a project tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time that I'm nervous about. Ty Lloyd, I remember on a podcast you were talking about how you store your physical games. If I remember correctly, you said you only keep the disc and you dispose of the case. This is true. If that is really, I mean, I have cases, but they're more like Easy Allies owned stuff. If that really is how you store games, why do you only keep the discs? If I'm mistaken, please correct me. Also, when you're buying new media like games, movies, or music, do you prefer buying them digitally or physically? Digitally, I'm not a collector's edition person. I need the shelves. I mean, I would like to have shelves with all of my movies on it. That'd be grand. That would look really great, and I would enjoy that aesthetically. I've never been able to afford that space. I've always had to have stuff that I need. Where's that plug of the cable of the thing? You know, and it's just like my home environment throughout all of this has evolved into just like, what are the things I grab the most, and what's the shelf I can put them on that they'll be the closest to me when I need them. And so, but I know I have a couple friends that are big film buffs that just buy stuff on Blu-ray just cuz. And I respect that. I love that. I love big shelves of creative joy. But yeah, I just keep the discs. I have folders for all the consoles, and I keep it as just a safe space. So when I'm like, oh, PS3 game, PS3 folder, flip, got the game. And then I don't put it back in that folder and lose it. And that's my style of like how I handle discs. And so yeah, digitally, big time. If I can, I'm all about huge hard drives with just big lineup of stuff. And the idea of the forever nature of digital for the future. I mean, nothing's forever, but the idea that it's like with Disney movies, you know, now that they're like, buy this Disney movie and never have to buy it again. Like, now we're talking. Same with Nintendo games and stuff. I'm all about that. RAR, formerly Robert, now RAR. Do the allies use custom emoji in Slack? My team has a lot of fun having each of our faces as emoji in our chats. No, I'd use emoji. I have the app, but I don't use it in Slack as much as I should. It's pretty trolly, I guess. That'd be kind of weird just to put like a big picture of me. Just drop that in Slack. I should do that. I'll do that today. RAR also asks, where do you get the chill music, like Corrections music and the music you play during Cup of Jones? Are these tracks someone wrote? Are they stock music? I must know. And while we're talking about music, will Phantom NK ever allow us to buy the Easy Allies theme song? Cannot talk about Phantom NK's business. Have no idea. These are all tracks someone wrote. They wrote and recorded them. Not for us, though. The Corrections music was provided by Kyle. I think he might have got that from YouTube. I don't know. Meaning the YouTube music, the licensed music that they suggest everyone use if they want to use something that will not get them in trouble on YouTube. And the music I played during Cup of Jones that you're listening to right now is from pond5.com. 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 Pond5. Go to pond5.com, type in jazz, and you'll find this ditty. Which I'm amazed. Before I start Cuppa Jones, I'm amazed. There are some custom emoji in there, but we don't really use them. Thank you, Bloodworth, for jumping in with the always needed context. Yeah, not a lot. Not a lot of images. I like the thumbs up. The thumbs up and the bro fist. I'm a fan of. James Vest. Oh, and yeah, I love people before we start. They're like, I'm ready for some smooth jazz. It's like, surely this song has a shelf life that we're gonna get to. They're to be like, that piano in the back, please, something else. I should. We actually have some fun music libraries now. I should go dig through them for some other jazz. Bring you some different jazz on Cuppa Jones. Maybe one different jazz song a month. This is your January jazz. James Vest, as a person who enjoys VR, do you think that now is a good time to invest, or would it be better to wait for the second generation of VR? You don't have to wait. You might have written this comment and they had not announced it yet, but they just announced the Vive Pro. Oh, I want that. I want that. Because you can get caught up in the majesty of the VR. You know, you get wrapped up in it and you're like, I'm in space! This is amazing. And then someone's talking and you're like looking at their face and all of a sudden like there are the dots. I see them. Like, oh, I can see it. Like, just walk close to your television and you can see it. The fuzz. You can actually see like this is the single point of light that's producing the image. You put them all together. It's like everything. It's like it's standing too close to something and instead of stepping back and appreciating the art from the perspective that you should have. So it's a tricky thing that you're saying, James, because I think whatever price, I don't know if they've announced it yet, but whatever price they put that VR headset on, I'm sure it's worth it. All of the VR you can buy right now is definitely worth it, because VR is one of my favorite things in life. Like, it's so fascinating to do. I'm so tempted all the time to just like break that stuff out and plug it in and jump back into some of these new games. I really want to know like what the best games are to play. But at the same time, it's pricey, and it's going to get less pricey over time. And so I think VR is stable enough now that when you jump in, you're going to have so much to experience that I think it's a much better time. I definitely would have been more reserved a couple years ago, and I'll feel more confident next year. So I think there's not a bad time. If you do want to jump in and you're like, I want to get Oculus or Vive, but it's too expensive. But PlayStation VR, I bet, is not that great. PSVR is fine. If you have PlayStation 4 and you want to get PSVR, you're set. It's great, and you'll enjoy it. There's a lot of really great games on there. More on the way. Plenty to do to justify that purchase. So I don't know. It might be a softball answer. Sorry. Zero the Clown, being the Disney expert that you are. Wait, what? Oh, did somebody else say the exact same thing about or something else? I think somebody said like whatever. I don't know. I'm never going to call myself an expert. Somebody else does. I enjoy it. Zero the Clown, being the Disney expert that you are, I would, just full disclosure, if I was ever on a Disney trivia show, I would fail big time. Because I don't watch a lot of Disney TV. I've missed a lot of Disney animated movies. I had to come to you for help. Do you have any pointers for planning a Disney World trip on a tight budget? My fiance and I want to make Disney World our honeymoon destination, but looking into everything, let's just say things are a little pricier than I was prepared for. Are there tips and tricks for cutting costs without sacrificing those Disney Magic TM trademark vibes? Chad McIntosh replied to this on Patreon, and I think his is better than anything I could ever say. A huge cost saver would be staying off Disney property. The convenience on staying on property is nice, but you pay a lot more to have that option, and 99% of surrounding resorts offer free shuttles. A lot of people also tend to forget that you can bring in your own snack items and drinks, so that you can definitely save you in the long run and over time, especially if you plan on being at the parks for a while. Lastly, check out a website called Mouse Savers. They do a great job updating discounts and deals offered for everything Disney related. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. I really like the snacks idea, because that can add up. And I think if you think about it kind of as an endurance test, if you're like, we're going to leave that spot and then go to that park, stay in that park all day, and then come home and crash at the resort, then, because those shuttle rides can be kind of long, and it's tough because they can stop at multiple places en route, and so you can be like, spend some time on shuttles. So try not to like zip around to multiple resorts that much. Just like, be like, Monday is Animal Kingdom, we're doing it. And if you bring some snacks, or if you bring, if you pack in your own lunch, and maybe just save dinner, like maybe just do that at the resort if you can get, or at the hotel you're staying if you get a meal plan. Yeah, that would be cool. That's a good suggestion. Disney's the kind of thing where I've never done the penny pincher kind of, penny pusher, pincher? I don't know. I've never done like a tight budget with Disneyland. I've definitely like not gone to places because it was just too crazy expensive. There is a threshold to what I can spend on Disneyland, but whenever I do that, I just do it enough that when I do it, I can stay at a resort that I can, you know, save up enough money. And I've only done it a couple times, so because it's not only convenience. It's why I live close to work now because I work at home, but I always like to be close to stuff. I don't like commuting, not because it's just boring. That's what the Switch is for. But thank you, Chad, for chiming in on that with a great comment. Bjorn or Haraldsvik, long episode today. Sorry, I'm very, very chatty. I've been attacking the stack, completed Metal Gear Rising and The Last of Us Left Behind. I still haven't played Left Behind. Starting an old save file from 2013 and continued right where I left off fighting a boss. Like any Platinum game, once you find the right way to play it, it becomes fun. Have you ever given a game some space and then enjoyed it much more a second time around? I don't know if it was intentional, and I certainly didn't do it because I wasn't enjoying it, but The Witcher 3 I backed away from for a long time, and that was very fun to get back to. I'm not writing takeaways down for this episode. I want to just... oh, and I didn't favorite the comments that people left for stuff. I keep forgetting to do that. Jovan Srekovic. Will we ever get another garage tour? I found it quite interesting seeing you detail all the cool stuff in there in early Cup of Jones episodes. What do you think about doing one once a year just to show what new gadgets and tech you've gotten to make work easier, and one for E3 to see how you're all set up for the big week? I'll definitely do one for E3 of this every year. I want to do one when there's like something to show. We've made like little small adjustments, but nothing that I thought really warranted a garage tour. But there is a lot of stuff in here I haven't talked about directly, so it might be fun to do less of the like, I'm on a camera going around, and maybe like set up the tripod and get a zoom and just kind of point at stuff and maybe get in close and have me point stuff out and show what it means to us and why we dig it. VG Junkie, do you think that you guys will have enough time to cover all of the EZA Awards categories in the time you've set? We said we're starting at 5. We have no idea when we're ending it. We're recording the podcast right after this so we can start at 5 p.m. On the nose and then go until 8, go until midnight, go until 2. I don't know. But yeah, I think we have enough time. It took 3 hours last year, so I think it'll probably take about 5. Do you think that you guys will have enough time to cover all the EZA Awards categories? Giant Bomb spent a whole week on their deliberations. Less categories? Less time for discussion? How do you balance it? We probably have less categories than Giant Bomb did. So we'll see. And we have, like, discussed this stuff. A lot of these discussions, Penning Sophie, you know how it is. A lot of these discussions will be continuations of discussions that we've started previously, but those conversations will end. And then Chad, dropping in with his comment, obviously Disney-focused. Chad McIntosh asks, top 3 Pixar films? For me, it's an easy pick for WALL-E, Inside Out, and Ratatouille. Also, have you had the chance to see Coco yet? I haven't. And I've heard nothing but really good things about it. I really want to see Coco. My top 3 would be Toy Story, Incredibles, and Inside Out. Inside Out and Incredibles might be like neck and neck. Incredibles is just so great. Incredibles is one of the best superhero movies ever. It's one of the best superhero movies anybody's ever made. It's really, really special. I think my favorite scene in Incredibles is when Dash not discovers his power, but finally uses it. Finally, like, uses his power for good. Uses his power to thwart evil. Those are always the first time the Rocketeer takes off, the first time Superman's like, I can fly! Like, all those were the first time Neo's like, I'm good at Kung Fu. Like, those moments are always so great, for the films that really do them right. And that was so satisfying. And I didn't get the sense that, like, oh, well, Dash is amazing now. Like, you got a sense that, like, no, he was born to do this, and he knows what he's doing. But Toy Story is the best of anything. Toy Story is so jolly and so well written and so flawlessly executed. Flawlessly, it's a hard word to throw around, but considering how hard it was to make Toy Story, considering how kind of like Last Starfighter and like some of those really early CG movies and Tron and how they had no idea what that stuff was going to look like until it was rendered. How some things they rendered, they had that first pass and that was it. That was the render that went into the movie. And so making that at the snail's pace that they did and pitching Toy Story to the executives, it was like, what is this going to look like? What? Such an achievement. And Inside Out destroys me every time. I cannot watch Up. Also, I really like the beginning of Up. Up kind of flies off the rails a little bit for me, but the beginning of Up will make me cry no matter what. And Inside Out crushes me. I think I saw it 3 times all the way through, and I cried like a baby every single time. But I got to see Coco. Andy Gorgon, I've been itching to pull the trigger on buying an EZA coffee mug for a few months now. I thought just now that it tickled me. I think there should be a Cup of Jones branded coffee mug on the merch store, maybe with the EZA logo on the other side. It'd be a perfect way to promote the show. Great slogan for a coffee mug. Yep, got to do it. Got to design a logo on my end. So that's my bad. Hopefully something that maybe on Thursday have a little merch conversation, talk about logos. Again, that's part of the there is a 3,000 or probably be more of like a $2,000 package for just design, to just redesign everything, all the logos for all the shows, all the graphics we use for streams, stuff like that. But is that the best thing to spend money on? But yeah, merch. There's a great merch suggestion in every Cup of Jones that does not get realized in the store, and it breaks my heart. Parasite Paladin, I just wanted to say I was disappointed in the last group stream, the one that started with rock, paper, scissors, where I painted and we played Mario challenges. I will admit that some ideas take more preparation than others, but there didn't seem to be any more preparation done for this than other streams. What was needed for this stream was for each ally to pick a game they are good at and for you guys to download it. During the stream, multiple allies forgot to pick a game beforehand, and none of the games were downloaded, which ruined the whole idea of the stream. I do apologize for nominating an idea that took some prep work, but I was sure you guys could handle it. I want to say that while I did enjoy the stream, I didn't like how the winning vote wasn't taken seriously. Yeah, that was a weird stream. That was a stream that I definitely was not tuned into because I was working on watercolor in the corner the entire time, and I definitely got a sense. I was like, yeah, I'd probably be a little agitated. Not to like throw any of the allies under the bus, because I think they eventually pulled out a great stream, and a fun stream, not one of our best, but and I think there was genuine enjoyment in that. I think what eventually happened was fun, but it's can be frustrating to plan for something, to say we're going to do something and then pivot. That's a big thing I want to talk about with on Thursday, and it's I can be kind of on the fence about it because there's something to be said about the randomness. There's something to be said about selling us as people who are honest, people who are straightforward, people who are ourselves, people who are just doing the best we can to entertain. But at the same time, you want things to be polished. You want things to be. You don't want to just watch us standing around. You don't want to go see figure skating and watch the person trying to learn how to figure skate. So you want to see a performance. You want to see people at their best. And so there are a lot of things that we don't do that we could do that do not involve budget, that do not involve spending Patreon money on something. It just involves the time required. We played Super Mario Strikers and we didn't learn how to play it beforehand. And so that was a decision, live on stream, where we're just like, nah, we're not going to learn the controls and just jump into it. Was that the right decision? I don't know. Is it funnier to watch us be bad at it, or is it better to watch us be good at it? Does that take away a lot of the spontaneity, or is it better to watch professionals? So it might depend on the stream. It might be something that we might make decisions unilaterally across everything, that we want to up our game, literally. Robert 7 Lee, with GOTY deliberations coming up, would it be possible for you to share memories of early GT days with GOTY discussions with GOTY deliberations coming up? Would it be possible for you to share memories of early GT days GOTY discussions with the likes of yourself, Bloodworth, Damiani, Shane, Justin Spear, Miguel Lopez, Rich Brown, Ryan Stevens, and more? Did Marcus Beer ever participate? I don't think so. As a refresher, these were Game Trailers GOTY winners from the past and contenders I nominated from games of that year. Robert says I don't have to name them, but I think it's fun to look back. According to Wikipedia, it's the same list as Easy Allies. Game Trailers / Easy Allies are the same list. 2005, Resident Evil 4. 2006, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. 2007, Super Mario Galaxy. 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4. Hell yeah. 2009, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. 2010, Mass Effect 2. 2011, Uncharted 3. 2012, XCOM Enemy Unknown. In 2010, the year Red Dead Redemption came out, Mass Effect 2 won Game of the Year. Do you remember putting up a fight for Red Dead? I don't think so. Just from listening to Invisible Walls back in the day, Shane gave the impression that he was headstrong and wouldn't back down from his opinion. How was he with the discussions? How heated were these discussions? Did you butt heads with anyone? Was there anyone that fought tooth and nail for a single game? I need the scoops, Mr. Jones. Can you dish the dirt? I don't remember any GOTY discussions. I think I would... What I did for the GOTYs, every now and then, maybe action adventure some years, I only would sit down and comment on on a category if I'd played every game in that category, and I almost never had. If I was shooter, there was usually one weird multiplayer game that I hadn't played, like a Battlefield or something, where I'm like, yeah, I just played these other shooters, so I didn't play that. And there are RPGs, or certainly JRPGs, or stuff that I like just hadn't played. Like I'm much more diverse now with the games, the type of games that I try to play in preparation for GOTYs. So I would come in and chime in on events that I knew, because they would do the deliberations on a calendar and say, we're going to be deliberating this for this period of time. Okay, so I know we can show up for that. And then I always showed up for trailer. Trailer was like my thing. Like I would show up and I would play 5 to 10 trailers for everybody to watch. We would grade them at the time, then we would add up the grades, and then not use that as the law, but use that as the launching pad for deliberation. And then pick the trailer, and then I bounced. And then I would most likely come back in for Game of the Year. I think I was there for most of these, and it's tough because Resident Evil 4, hell yeah, I think I was very involved in that discussion. Twilight Princess didn't finish, still haven't finished. I know, shocking. Super Mario Galaxy didn't finish. Grand Theft Auto 4, hell yeah. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 I played. Mass Effect 2 never played at all. And Uncharted 3 I have not played. So again, it's like, if I was there, like Arkham City was nominated the Uncharted 3 year, Skyrim was as well, and The Witcher 2. I think I probably voted for Skyrim that year over Arkham City, which is terrifying because Dark Souls is also that year, and Dark Souls is probably better than Skyrim. But I didn't play Dark Souls, so I didn't know. So I would probably voice what I thought, but would never, didn't necessarily... oh, and you're forgetting... was it 2013 or 14? You're missing some, because definitely the one that I was upset about was I wanted Grand Theft Auto 5 to win over Last of Us. I still have that opinion because I played Last of Us twice, maybe 3 times before that Game of the Year deliberation. And I think GTA 5 takes Last of Us out behind the bleachers and beats the crap out of it. But I love Last of Us. I think it's great. I just think GTA 5 is a vastly superior game. And was crushed when it didn't win. That was that definitely. We were talking about Batman the Animated Series for the Super Nintendo last week. That was one of those things where I was like, I'm getting too angry about this. I need to back away, because it's frustrating that I mean they voted and that was it. There was no swaying anybody, and so I didn't. It was not only that GTA 5 lost, but I didn't really get a chance to like pitch it. And when I did, it had already lost, and so it was like, well, what's the point of even talking about it? So yeah, but it was it was a good lesson because it learned me to calm the heck down, which hopefully I can exercise tonight. Dominic, given that you were born and raised in California, were you ever made to read Joan Didion growing up? No. I am familiar with Joan Didion, but I have not read her work. I just finished a book of her essays, and I can see why she's treated as a seminal West Coast author. Yeah, there's Kerouac, there's a lot of authors that were in California a lot. There's a lot of... Hunter S. Thompson that I want to read, sorry. Isn't there a great Joan Didion documentary that just popped up on Netflix or something? Or am I thinking of somebody else? But great recommendation. Put that in the takeaways. Joan Didion. Tony Knox, what happened to the subscriber song? I never heard it anymore, and it was one of the first goals on Patreon. We just stopped doing it. We miss subscribers, which is terrible. Something I want to bring up on Thursday. I don't think we should miss any subscriber. If you give us money on Twitch, you should be recognized in the stream every single time. I want to just have a graphic maybe that addresses that all the time, or really encourage people to mention that stuff, because when I know we've missed subs, it sucks. But singing wasn't always the best thing. It doesn't sound good when we do it. It sounds good to me because I can hear my voice in my head, which is a terrible thing to say. But like, it was a weird pace killer. We started getting just a lot of subs. We were just singing constantly, and because we missed people, it felt bad to sing for one person. There was just a lot of problems that added up over time. That ultimately, when a couple of the allies were like, "I don't want to do it anymore," it was tough to like be like, "You will do it. You will sing." So sorry about that. Last question. I'm going to do a quick editorial. I think if I wrap this up by noon, Kyle Bossman might be out there on the couch working on the podcast. I'm not sure. Kelly was freaking out. She smelled somebody, but it might have just been Amanda walking around. I'm going to do a brief editorial that was something that came up that I'm sure I'm going to add my very unpopular comment on it, that I feel most people probably in the video game industry, probably the majority of Easy Allies patrons and our audience out there will have the same opinion that I do, but there was one thing that stuck out even more about it, and that was a tweet. I don't like to attack people very often. I don't like to be like, hey, you tweeted something, and I think that's incorrect. But this is ignorant and pretty stupid, and game-related. And it was from somebody who I have seen make a lot of really good points. Oh, yes, there's somebody here. Oh, she sees somebody in the back. Oh, she's jumping up and down. Oh, somebody's here. I mean, they can be on Cup of Jones. I don't know why they wouldn't want to be on Cup of Jones. I don't know why they wouldn't want to just open that door and come on in. They could. I think that door is locked, actually. I gotta let her out. She's just losing her mind. Who is it? It's Kyle Bossman! Oh, it's Kyle. Oh, the door's locked, but I'm opening the door. Oh, Sophie, go get your Kyle. Go get your Kyle. I'm almost done. I literally just have an editorial. Yeah, sorry, man. No, you can pop in, baby. What's up? We're going live to patrons right now, man.
So I thought you were mid-editorial. That's why I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, I'm just starting it. It's about. I'll say it to the camera and Kyle. Did you read that Keith Olbermann tweet about esports?
No, what did he say?
It was the classic, out of touch person not in gaming being like esports. And you're like, you're an idiot. Like just
what did he say, Jones?
3 years. Oh, so somebody made either did an interview or posted something where an esports player that I was named I do not recognize was being honored in some way, was being interviewed, or there's some spotlight being put on them and they had won something.
Okay.
And Keith Olbermann said, 3 years in, that's awfully early to have jumped the shark by publishing pieces by snotty rando kids playing children's games.
Ooh.
Snotty rando kids playing children's games.
That's how you start an editorial.
So, take Sophie, close the door, and we'll get into it.
All right.
So first of all, yeah, what the hell? I mean, what's really funny is, I'm not a big esports guy. I love the competition and the flavor of it. The closest I probably get to esports is at PAX every year when they do, it's not PAX, at PSX, yeah, at PAX when they do the Capcom tournament. PSX PAX? I can't remember. I think it's at PSX maybe that they do the Capcom tournament. And that's the best, like to be there and to be close to anybody. But I feel the same way about that I feel like hockey, or like lacrosse. Like I'll watch any sport if I'm next to people that love it. I mean, the same would go for any kind of entertainment. Like if you're next to somebody that appreciates the thing, that's like cake, man. That's like that vibe, that energy. Like that's a positive thing, and it doesn't matter what it is. If no one's being hurt, other than some egos are bruised every now and then in esports, and people are enjoying it, it's amazing to be around. Games Done Quick is doing their thing just to get the vibe of what that audience is like, being watching one of your favorite games being played in a way that you couldn't possibly aspire to. It's great. It's really exciting. And so I don't claim to know anything about it. I don't know a lot of the shoutcasters. I don't know a lot of the athletes. I'm not good at any of the games that are played for esports. It's just something that I am completely on the outside of just by general interest. But I respect it so much and I enjoy it so much. And what's hilarious is how distant I am from esports and how much comments like this piss me off. Like, to read something like this, just like I didn't say anything to him because it's like, what's the point? Like, he's not going to listen to what I'm saying, and I'm not going to defend people that I don't know. If I don't know this guy's name that he made fun of and I've never watched him play, I don't feel like I can weigh in on this because it's just like, it's just Keith being a dummy. But the thing that really stuck out to me was not the kids playing children's games, because that's the easy thing. That's when everybody, that's not a children's game. He's not a child. He's does this for a living. This is his career. This is what he's gonna be doing his entire life, potentially. So what, the children's games? How dare you? It's the rando. That's the thing that really sticks out for me. That made me think a lot about how I want to carry myself in the entertainment industry. To never be at a point where I criticize somebody for not knowing them. It's like, I try to think of like even genres of music that I love, that I'll still see names of, what? This album's great. Who is this? And I'll go and find it. And they got millions of YouTube followers and millions of people on Twitter. And I'm like, who is this? Who's this rando? And it's like, again, just like being around people that like esports, that's such a fascinating discovery. Logan Paul right now is in the news for the worst reasons you could ever possibly want to be in the news for. And I don't know Logan Paul. Like, I see Logan Paul, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. But I've never seen any of his videos. I don't follow him. But I don't have the knee-jerk reaction of like, who? Oh, that's a person who thinks they're a person. It's like it's like no matter where you go, no matter what you're interested in, no matter how with it you think you are, You know, there are still people in the gaming industry Jeff Keighley does not know. It's a fact. You know, like there are limits to your to your bubble, whether you know those are put in place intentionally or not. And so it's frustrating to see somebody in the position that Keith is in, looking at someone he doesn't know, doing a thing he doesn't like, and immediately writing it off because he doesn't understand it. And I know that's at the core of everybody's criticisms of this tweet, but like the rando thing, I think is something I maybe is the beginning ground of making Keith understand what he said. In trying to avoid, it's like, imagine if you found out somebody was making some kind of sustainable farming in Africa that was saving lives and you know, curing diseases, and you were just like, well, I've never heard of him, this rando scientist. You know, it's like the world is full of randos. There are billions of people on this planet. Like, there's just, we're at a place in entertainment and just culture that the thing you enjoy, the world you create for yourself, is like 2% of the world. Like, that there are, you know, if you don't know what Eurovision is, like, if you don't watch the World Cup, like, there are huge things that are happening in the world that you'd have no frame of reference on. And so it's just like seeing him being like, you know, seeing him as a journalist, you know, seeing something and not being like, oh, well, like, thank you, life. Look at this fun opportunity to explore something that I don't know. Being like, I don't know it. Next. It's frustrating. So that's it. That's all I want to say on that. That I just encourage people, not, you know, not to have that reaction, because I think that applies to everything. I mean, it's like we could rake Keith over the coals by being like, you need to be smarter about esports. And it was great to see a lot of people on social media that manage esports not make the gut instinct of just like, rah, name call, but being like, Keith, give me some time and I'll explain this to you. Like bring me on your show. I'll bring you on my show. We can talk about this. Like, because this is toxic and gross. But the rando thing is, I think, something that can be applied to sports. It can be applied to anything that has a culture, anything that has a magazine, a website, a TV show, a podcast, a YouTube channel, someone's Twitch streaming it. You know, it's the life should be about discovering the rando. The rando should be celebrated in every case. I love rando. Rando loves rando. There it is. That's the end of your editorial. Oh crap! I'm supposed to do the lower when I do the editorial. Oh no. Oh geez, we'll bring it in at the end. There we go. Finally, a music change for everybody. A very long Cup of Jones. I was gonna try to fly through this. Obviously, if I really want to fly through Cup of Jones, I won't do an editorial. But that's it for that. So yeah, thanks to Kyle Bossman for coming in off camera for. Here we go. Game of the Year awards. So you're starting the podcast at noon. That should probably be over just before 2 o'clock. And then we get a little 3-hour break, and then we're back. So yeah, I want to mention this too. We're going to mention this at the beginning of the Goaties, but it's not something we're talking about in Cup of Jones, and it's something that feels like a given, but people might not realize. Spoiler warning. We can't deliberate the games of the year and not spoil stuff like rampantly. We have to. Like it's tough because that's the thing is that we really want to be ourselves on camera. That was one of the issues where I was like, I don't know about live streaming because we really want to be ourselves. And when people are like, yeah, be yourselves, but don't spoil. It's impossible. We're putting on characters that we're being hosts, and you don't want to see hosts deliberate. You want to see gamers deliberate. You want to see fans of these things. You want to see the allies deliberate. And so we're gonna be us. We're gonna be. Oh, sorry, and like we'll try to. We were thinking like, should we put a bumper or something up, or should we like a bell that rings or something like a buzzer? Okay, it's a spoiler buzzer. But yeah, it's just we're gonna be talking about stuff. Oh, Sophie wants to come back in now. Is that what you want, Soph? I gotta go let my dog in. But there we go. Spoilers. Game of the year tonight. It's well, obviously we're not gonna just be happy about the spoiling. We're gonna try to do as little of that as possible. But it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be bloody. It's gonna be hopefully entertaining. And hopefully before. One or all of us falls asleep. We know what the 2017 Game of the Year is for Easy Allies. Hope to see you then. Thank you for watching, everybody.